Have you ever felt that that gut-wrenching tension, between doing what you think is the right thing in your leadership role and then the harsh, kind of messy realities of corporate politics?
Hmm.
Ever wish you just had a secret playbook, like a hidden guide for navigating those really tricky situations? The ones where the traditional management advice, the stuff you learn in courses, it just falls flat.
Yeah, completely.
Well, today you're in for a truly fascinating deep dive, maybe even a bit provocative.
Okay.
We're going to unpack some incredibly controversial, yet, well, surprisingly effective strategies for leadership.
Right.
And these aren't pulled from, the latest self-help guru. They come from a pretty unlikely source, the 15th century philosopher Niccolo Machiavelli.
Wow, okay. Machiavelli.
Specifically, as interpreted for today's IT executives in the Gartner eBook, The Wolf CIO's Clothing, a Machiavellian Strategy for Successful IT Leadership by Tina Nunno.
Right, I know that one. It's quite something.
Our mission today is to explore how CIOs can go beyond just being, mere service providers, how they can become true strategic partners, even in the most challenging politically charged environments. And the key is understanding and, importantly, selectively applying these Machiavellian disciplines.
It is striking, isn't it, how often IT leaders find themselves, well, frankly, ill-equipped for the political battles that just seem to rage within organizations.
Totally.
And the book makes a really compelling case that many CEOs and business leaders, they're not just aware of these tactics, they actively apply them daily, often leaving CIOs feeling vulnerable, kind of outmaneuvered.
Yeah.
So this deep dive, it isn't about promoting unethical behavior, let's be clear on that.
Right.
Crucial
Right.
point, it's more about giving you a mental toolkit, a framework for understanding these dynamics so you can defend your team, grow your influence, and really secure IT's strategic role. It provides you with options for even the most extreme situations you might face.
Okay, let's unpack a really foundational truth the author highlights right at the start. Many CIOs express, genuine shock when colleagues aren't always nice or respectful. They often frame it as just a lack of civility.
Like it's just bad manners.
Exactly. But the book offers a much deeper, maybe more uncomfortable truth. A consistent lack of niceness from your peers. That's a pretty clear indication they actually don't respect you.
Ouch. Yeah.
And this fundamental misunderstanding, right, of the underlying power dynamics, it can easily relegate IT to just being a service provider rather than that strategic partner.
And that cascades, doesn't it?
It does. It creates this whole cascade of problems that weaken a CIO's position, making it almost impossible to really thrive and, help the business compete effectively.
That's a really crucial observation. And what's particularly illuminating is where this insight came from.
Right.
The author, through years of working with countless CIOs, she consistently asked the really strong, effective leaders what truly inspired their strategic thinking, what was different. And a significant number, almost a startling number, really, had studied Machiavelli. And importantly, they practiced his teachings.
Wow. Even with the negative baggage that word carries.
Yes. Even though Machiavellian has all these negative connotations, right? Subterfuge, aggression, all that. It just makes you wonder, if you're not familiar with these very real tactics, how can you possibly recognize them when they're being used against you?
Yeah, good point.
Let alone defend your position or, when necessary, deploy them yourself.
Yeah.
For the greater good of the enterprise, of course.
And this leads straight into a critical point the book raises about, well, the unfamiliar terrain for IT leaders. Think about it. Political philosophy, moral philosophy, it's just not standard reading, is it? Not in engineering, computer science, even information management programs.
No, not on the curriculum.
So it creates this glaring gap in the toolkit of many CIOs. It leaves them fundamentally unprepared for the political realities of the executive suite, especially when they're sitting next to CEOs and, business-degreed colleagues who often are intimately familiar with these concepts. They've read the prints.
Absolutely. And if you look at the broader context, the pressure on CIOs is just immense. It's constantly increasing.
Relentless.
There's an insatiable demand for IT, coupled with a growing number of opportunities to leverage technology for real core competitive advantage.
Right.
Which means CIOs need these tactics, not just defensively, to protect their teams and initiatives from internal attacks, but also offensively. Particularly in extreme situations, these strategies become absolutely vital to exponentially increase IT's contribution to the enterprise.
So it's about having more tools in the box.
It's about being willing to try something else, a different approach. especially when the traditional positive management tactics have just stopped working and you find your efforts are struggling to gain traction. You're hitting a wall.
Okay, so Machiavelli, in his, well, timeless advice, famously urged leaders to draw inspiration from two specific animals. The cunning fox, good at avoiding traps. The sly one. And the mighty lion, powerful enough to frighten away enemies.
The strength.
But for today's CIOs, the author argues, the ultimate animal is something different. It's the wolf.
The wolf.
And this is where it gets really fascinating, because the wolf seems to embody this unique blend of qualities that resonates perfectly with the modern CIO's challenges. Or
multifaceted, right?
Totally. The wolf is presented as this ideal balance, you see, of power and intelligence.
Okay.
It's intelligent, it's social, it inspires deep loyalty and strong group affinity within its pack.
Right, the pack mentality. But, crucially, it's also a ruthless predator, capable of leading strong fighters, winning in highly competitive environments, commanding a vast, ever-expanding territory.
That sounds like the CIO role today.
Doesn't it? It reflects the complex and evolving demands on CIOs managing highly technical, often diverse, global teams, navigating the complexities of global operations, all while leveraging information, mobility, social media.
It's everywhere.
As the book notes, the CIO's territory isn't just the data center anymore. It extends as far as technology reaches. And, well, with greater territory comes exponentially greater risks.
Okay, so the book throws out a scenario for you, the listener, to consider, one that probably sounds, well, painfully familiar.
Oh, let's hear it.
Quote, we don't get enough IT, or any IT quickly enough, or cheaply enough.
Sound familiar?
Sighs, only every day.
Right. So how do you typically respond when you're faced with those kinds of perennial stakeholder complaints? You jump straight to data, offer detailed explanations, make excuses, or maybe try something else entirely? That really prompts a vital question, doesn't it? About the actual effectiveness of data in those moments.
Yeah.
Because while CIOs are inherently data-driven, empirical, which is a huge strength for navigating the complex details of IT ops.
Absolutely.
The book argues that in situations of severe organizational stress, declining revenue, shrinking budgets, maybe increased market competition, rational decision-making often gets completely sacrificed for basic survival instincts.
Fight or flight kicks in.
Exactly.
Okay.
In these emotionally charged, high-stakes environments, data, no matter how compelling it seems, it often doesn't work. It gets ignored. Or worse, twisted.
So if you're consistently bringing your meticulously compiled spreadsheets and charts to what the book vividly calls a knife fight,
Eccles Riley. Yeah.
You're essentially acting like prey.
Yeah.
And in the brutal reality of the animal kingdom, prey, by definition, risks becoming food. It's a dramatic analogy, sure, but it really drives home the point. Relying solely on pure logic and data in a politically hostile or emotionally charged environment, it's a recipe for disaster. It leaves you totally exposed.
Now, it's really crucial to understand, though, that Wolf CIOs aren't painted as purely good or purely bad characters. That's too simple.
Right, it's not black and white.
They operate in what the book calls the complex middle, and because of that, they often appear gray to outsiders. The power of the wolf comes from its ability to go to those binary extremes, leveraging both light and dark tactics when strategically needed. But their overall approach is blended. It's pragmatic, and it's always relentlessly focused on what's genuinely best for the enterprise.
It's about effectiveness over just niceness.
Effectiveness, exactly. Not just ethical purity in isolation.
Okay, so let's talk about these light side behaviors, as the book calls them. These are the positive, the inspirational actions that foster that enthusiastic followership.
Stuff we like to focus on.
Right. Think positive incentives, strong social skills, clearly articulating values, empathy, selflessness, and knowing precisely when not to engage in a battle. Choosing to live to fight another day.
Strategic retreat.
Exactly. So when IT initiatives need creativity or high engagement or inspiration like top-line growth programs, creating new competitive differentiation, you absolutely lean into the light side.
And while those behaviors inspiring admiration, loyalty, fostering that sense of community, they're undeniably crucial.
Yeah, you need them.
Relying solely on them leaves a CIO remarkably vulnerable. Think about it.
Yeah.
Some staff might not genuinely share the CIO's values. They might have self-focused agendas or even conflicting loyalties to other powerful executives.
Right.
Furthermore, the very intimate relationships you build through light side leadership, if they're not balanced, can leave you exposed to attacks. You have few options for defense if that trust is ultimately betrayed.
So focusing only on good can actually be a weakness.
Ironically, yes. A profound weakness, potentially.
Okay, so on the flip side, we have the dark side behaviors. These are more negative, designed to inspire a, let's say, healthy dose of fear.
Okay, fear.
These tactics can bring stray followers back into line, they can prevent assaults on your territory or your team, and they ensure that no potential enemy considers you an easy target.
Making an example.
Exactly. The book gives a pretty sharp example. Chris firing Tim for attempting to steal his job by speaking badly about him to colleagues and the CFO. Now, that action, whether you deem it right or wrong, in a purely ethical sense, it sends a clear, necessary message to other potential usurpers. Think twice before trying to undermine the CIO.
Yes, that's a boundary.
It also communicates to other executives that Chris is willing to go to the dark side, to do the difficult things to protect his position, and ultimately the enterprise's stability.
The wider implication here is that these tactics, when used appropriately and importantly on behalf of the team and the enterprise, they project an image of a strong and formidable leader. Staff and colleagues respect them because they know these CIOs can get things done and that they will provide for and fiercely protect their team. People feel a sense of safety within that community, that pack.
But there's a catch.
The crucial caveat, of course, is that protection comes with an expectation of loyalty. It's a two-way street. But when used judiciously, demonstrably for the greater good, these dark side tactics make CIOs strong protectors and effective champions for their causes. They ensure compliance and prevent those territory assaults.
So it comes back to that perennial question. Should you be liked or respected, loved or feared?
Right, the classic dilemma.
The book powerfully argues these are false binaries. They're not simple either choices. To be truly successful, a leader has to master both sides. Exactly. Being liked is tremendously helpful, right? Especially when things inevitably go wrong. Often that affection is the only thing that might win a CIO another chance to succeed.
Yeah, buys you goodwill.
But when admiration or affection ultimately fails, and sometimes it just does, it is incredibly useful, often necessary, to be loathed or feared. It's another tool.
It is. And the journey to becoming that fully grown, gray, Machiavellian wolf involves exploring both these extremes of light and dark. It's about building strength, developing a complete, robust toolkit of leadership tactics.
Right.
This isn't about abandoning your core values, let's be clear.
No, not at all.
It's about having the full spectrum of options at your disposal to navigate complex and sometimes pretty hostile environments. It's a recognition that leadership is a profound privilege, yes, but also a significant burden, and that sometimes incredibly difficult decisions aren't just necessary, they're essential for the greater good of the enterprise. Machiavelli himself observed, didn't he, that many leaders choose that middle course, precisely because they don't really know how to be entirely good or entirely bad.
They default to what feels safe, like a kind of bland moderation.
Exactly. But the book argues this middle course can often be the most hazardous path. It can leave you deeply dissatisfied both with the results you get and with yourself. Or worse, it can lead to accidental, reckless extremes when you finally snap under pressure. It's true that, questioning and doubt are ethically healthy. Leaders should continuously ask, am I doing the right thing?
Absolutely.
But defaulting to a middle ground out of, say, indecision rather than intentional, calculated strategy, that can indeed lead to dissatisfaction or, worse, those accidental, reckless extremes right at the worst possible moment.
Yeah.
The book shares a really powerful example of Joseph, a CIO who intentionally orchestrated his own firing.
Wow.
By subtly yet deliberately outshining his CEO at a board presentation. He knew full well his CEO did not appreciate being overshadowed.
Ouch. Risky.
Very. And while this shows some, let's say, admirable Machiavellian elements in his desire to expose a self-serving CEO,
Right.
the author suggests it's actually preferable to use extreme behaviors deliberately for positive change, to prevent negative situations from spiraling, rather than using them as a calculated path to, well, career wreckage. It's about calculated risk, not reckless self-sabotage.
Okay, so what does this all mean for us practically? Machiavelli's three major political works, The Prince, The Discourses, and The Art of War, they directly inspire the three essential disciplines we're going to explore today. And these disciplines seem critical for developing that calm, controlled, effective approach, even in the most stressful situations.
Absolutely. The Prince focuses primarily on how a ruler gains and retains power, often in the context of, like, a dictator.
Right.
This is exceptionally relevant for CIOs because, while it's a book many CEOs appreciate, CIOs need to understand its lessons to better grasp how their CEOs and other powerful executives operate.
Yeah.
And crucially, how to apply its tactics to enhance their own success within that political landscape.
Makes sense. Understand the playbook.
Exactly. The Discourses, on the other hand, explores leading in environments where power is divided among many, much more like a modern corporation, right?
Yeah, more complex.
This requires not just raw power, but also intelligence and calculation, or what we're calling manipulation. And CIOs, with their data-driven analytical skill sets, actually have tremendous potential to master this discipline.
Interesting. Using those skills differently.
Precisely. And finally, the art of war. It covers military campaigns, which mirrors how objectives like growing revenue or aggressive cost-cutting or major organizational consolidations. These are often hostile activities that face significant resistance.
Yeah, they feel like battle sometimes.
They do. These scenarios demand long-term planning, organization, adaptability in the face of conflict. CIOs have to be prepared to manage conflict, sometimes on multiple fronts, and it's always too late to prepare once the enemy is already targeting you.
Okay, so to help us visualize all this, the book introduces a really useful concept: the extreme animal ecosystem.
Ah, yes, the ecosystem.
Think of it like a hub-and-spoke model, right? With the adaptable wolf right there in the center.
Mm-hmm.
Embodying the essence of 6 other animals positioned strategically at the edges. And this is where it gets really insightful, because these animals represent the binary light and dark extremes of each of those 3 Machiavellian disciplines we just talked about.
That's right. And the way these animals are specifically paired to represent those extremes is key. So for the discipline of power, you've got the gentle lamb on the light side.
Okay.
And the formidable lion on the dark side.
Lamb and lion, got it.
For manipulation, it's the innocent dove representing the light.
Oh, dove.
And the cunning snake representing the dark.
Dove and snake.
And for warfare, we see the cooperative dolphin on the light side.
Dolphin.
Contrasted with the aggressive shark on the dark.
Dolphin and shark. So 6 animals, 3 pairs around the wolf.
Exactly. And the wolf in the center is at its full, ultimate strength only when it has truly gained and integrated the essence of all 6 of these animals.
So as you're listening, you might find you naturally resemble one of these animals more than that balanced wolf in the middle.
Probably. Most people do.
The key, according to the book, isn't to just stay where you are, but to strategically move towards these extremes. It's about fully understanding and mastering their distinct tactics, actually experiencing them, before returning to that integrated, balanced gray wolf in the center.
And this leads us to some really critical dangers of imbalance.
Okay.
Spending too much time exclusively on the light side makes you prey or lunch, especially if your colleagues or the overall enterprise culture tend towards the darker, more aggressive side.
Right, get eaten alive.
Pretty much. Conversely, spending too much time solely on the dark side risks being perceived as genuinely bad, self-serving, maybe even a liability, which can lead to your elimination.
Okay, so neither extreme is sustainable.
Exactly. Without truly embodying both of these extremes, a wolf is, as the book puts it, just a dog. Domesticated, right? Unable to be a competitive killer in the technology arena. Confined to being told what to do, and ultimately lacking the necessary traits to thrive strategically.
And here's the kicker, right? A really powerful twist. The path to becoming a wolf isn't necessarily a linear progression from light side to gray moderation.
No, it's not that simple.
In dark side enterprises, CIOs who start on the light side are often just perceived as weak, ineffective.
They get run over.
So the book advises, controversially perhaps, that you might actually need to go to the dark extremes first.
Really? Why?
Because then, when you return to that gray wolf center, you're perceived as extremely strong, as if you're actively restraining yourself. And therefore, paradoxically, you're seen as magnanimous.
Wow, that's counterintuitive. Starting dark to appear?
Good. Kind of. Strong and restrained. And most CIOs, based on the author's extensive experience, tend to start on the light side. So for much of this deep dive, we're going to be deliberately venturing into the dark, exploring those less comfortable tactics. Okay, let's properly unpack this fundamental idea of power. It's a loaded word, right? But the book directly confronts the common perception, arguing that power is an essential tool. It's not inherently negative or dirty, like many traditional leadership books seem to imply.
Right. It's just a tool.
And Machiavelli himself believed it was far more effective to plan ahead, to proactively gain power, rather than frantically trying to amass it when you're already under attack.
That's a crucial observation.
Yeah.
What truly stands out is Machiavelli's view that power defined simply as the ability to make something happen is an ethically neutral construct.
Okay. Neither good nor bad in itself.
Exactly. It's merely a tool that CIOs can choose to use for good or for ill. And politics, another one of those emotionally charged words, is simply the process of resolving conflicts and making decisions within an organization. Embracing this unapologetically and understanding that wielding power is both an opportunity for immense good and a threat that demands respect. That's the first critical step for CIOs. Without power, a CIO just can't effectively benefit themselves, their subordinates, or the entire enterprise.
And the nature of IT itself, its ubiquity, means it's constantly visible to everyone.
Oh yeah, nonstop.
Everyone depends on IT every minute of every day. This constant visibility makes CIOs incredibly powerful when successful, doesn't it? But it also makes them highly vulnerable to intense scrutiny and criticism that their peers in, say, marketing or finance rarely, if ever, experience. It's a real double-edged sword.
Totally. And if you zoom out a bit, IT is uniquely positioned to drive top-line growth, reduce bottom-line costs, and mitigate critical risks, all the things that truly matter most to senior executives.
The big three.
Exactly. Each time a CIO successfully delivers these benefits, it's not just a project completed, it's a profound opportunity to grow power. But too many CIOs fall into the trap of focusing solely on the vulnerability aspect, right? Viewing IT as merely a service provider.
The help desk mentality.
Precisely. Which places them in a powerless, reactive mode. Shifting this dynamic in favor of empowerment requires fundamentally changing this self-perception and, crucially, developing a new skill set through what the book calls extreme measures.
Okay, so to help us navigate these power dynamics, the extreme animal ecosystem gives us those binary power animals again. On the light side, we have the lamb.
The lamb.
Striving to be liked, wanting to please others, often reluctant to say no, using positive incentives. Lambs tend to do well in collegial, harmonious cultures, but they're rarely seen as fighters when things turn hostile.
Seen as prey, maybe?
Potentially, yeah. Then on the dark side, there's the lion.
Roar.
Actively gathering positional and coercive power, managing up aggressively, and roaring its accomplishments for all to hear. Lions excel in aggressive cultures. They're good at execution, but they might be viewed as just the muscle, maybe less inspirational, even intimidating.
Right, all force, maybe less finesse.
So the discerning Wolf CIO, always there in the center, knows precisely when to embody the strength and assertiveness of a lion and when to don the seemingly innocuous sheep's clothing of a lamb, blending light and dark as the situation demands.
Adapting the approach.
Exactly. Now, a common CIO challenge, one we all recognize, having far more demand for IT services than there are resources available to fulfill them.
The eternal struggle.
Right. And Machiavelli wisely warned that hate is gained as much by good works as by evil, which highlights how even truly well-intentioned efforts can, paradoxically, lead to resentment if not managed with strategic foresight.
It's so true. And many CIOs adopt the lamb approach to prioritization.
Right.
Hoping to please everyone, avoid conflict by saying yes to as many projects as humanly possible, often ending up with a list far longer than they could ever realistically fulfill.
Setting themselves up to fail.
Pretty much. And when business colleagues decline to participate in prioritization efforts, light-side CIOs might even make kindly excuses for them, like, oh, they're just too busy.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But over time, this well-intentioned cooperation isn't met with gratitude. It's met with contempt. It's perceived not as helpfulness, but as a clear sign of weakness. Stronger stakeholders often think, well, if the CIO had the power to say no, then of course he would say no.
Makes sense.
The book illustrates this with the vivid example of Doug, a government CIO who inherited this unwieldy list of over 400 projects with absolutely no clear prioritization, just chaos.
Wow, 400. And then we have the cautionary tale of Paul, right, an aerospace CIO, who, perhaps with good intentions, effectively gave away all his power by letting this sprawling governance group make every single IT decision.
Trying to spread the blame.
He operated under the belief of plausible deniability, thinking he wouldn't be blamed when costs skyrocketed and systems inevitably failed because, hey, they made the choices.
Yeah, but that rarely works, does it?
Not in a dark side culture, apparently. He was still unequivocally blamed, with colleagues saying he should have known better, a harsh lesson in ultimate accountability.
In stark contrast, you have Robert, a Lions CIO for an international group of sports teams. He takes a far more proactive, almost aggressive approach.
Okay, how so?
He meets with each team owner individually before he ever convenes a governance meeting, so he knows exactly how everyone will vote on key IT initiatives before the meeting even starts.
Ah, pre-wiring the decision.
Exactly. He masterfully steers the decision-making, deftly swapping projects in and out based on perceived value and, importantly, political leverage. This lion approach is undeniably sound, highly effective, but it comes with a trade-off.
Which is?
Robert has to be entirely comfortable with the high visibility and intense accountability that comes with it. When things go wrong, all eyes are squarely and often solely on him. No hiding.
Okay, now, this is where it gets truly tactical. Remember, Doug, the government CIO with those 400 projects.
Yeah, drowning in projects.
When his stakeholders utterly refused to engage in any meaningful prioritization, just wouldn't come to the table, Doug, embodying the essence of a Wolf CIO, took matters into his own hands.
Okay, what did he do?
He dramatically slashed that overwhelming list of 400 projects down to a manageable 50 of his own choosing.
Wow, bold move.
And crucially, he took special care to eliminate the beloved pet projects of high-priority stakeholders.
Ooh, hitting them where it hurts.
Then he presented this truncated list as a fait accompli. Done deal. When some stakeholders, predictably, objected to his seemingly dictatorial decision-making,
Yeah, I bet they did.
Doug feigned total innocence, he noted, with maybe a hint of irony. Well, if they had engaged with me, I certainly would have known which projects were important. Perhaps if they would like to engage now, I could adjust the priority list.
Chuckles. Brilliant. Playing dumb while holding all the cards.
Exactly. By combining that lamb-like cooperative language with lion-like decisive force, he not only dealt with the immediate issue, but also subtly yet powerfully taught his stakeholders the invaluable lesson of constructive participation. Show up, or your stuff gets cut.
That really highlights a key takeaway, doesn't it? Don't view pet projects solely as, like, a pestilence to be eradicated.
Right. They have value.
They're a form of currency. A discerning Wolf CIO understands how to use them selectively to build influence, gain political capital. Eliminating all of them is a lost opportunity to build crucial relationships, while always saying yes to them completely devalues their political worth. The Wolf is selective, ensuring any exchange is meaningful and, most importantly, benefits the entire enterprise in the long run.
Okay, next point on power, reputation. What words would your CEO use to describe you and your IT department right now? Think about that.
Important question.
The book strongly emphasizes that your reputation is one of your most valuable assets. And as Machiavelli suggested centuries ago, perception is reality. In today's fast-paced work environment, few people truly invest the time to dig below the surface of a difficult situation.
No time for nuance.
So your narrative needs to be clear, consistent, and proactively managed. You have to own it.
Humble CIOs, like Sheila, the media company CIO mentioned in the book.
Yeah.
She diligently produced weekly status reports that often began with the bad news.
Trying to be transparent.
Right, get it out of the way. But they frequently leave their reputations entirely to chance. They operate under the belief that good work will naturally be noted and appreciated. But Machiavelli would argue that's a dangerous assumption in many corporate environments.
Why?
Because instead, few hear of the successes, but many, many hear of the failures. Allowing the exception to become the rule, subtly but significantly damaging the overall reputation of IT. This humble lamb approach, while admirable personally, can be really suboptimal in a dark-side business culture where proactive communication and narrative control are absolutely essential.
Okay, so what about the lion approach to reputation?
Lion CIOs often go to the opposite extreme. David, a manufacturing CIO, rigidly avoids sharing any bad news whatsoever.
Really, none.
He even went so far as to send staff home during audits to ensure nothing less than perfect was seen by external observers. They roar about every success, but are deeply reluctant to show any perceived weakness.
What's the problem with that? Sounds good on the surface.
The problem is, it often leads to colleagues not volunteering help because, well, everything is always great in David's world.
Ah, okay. No one offers help if they think you don't need it.
Exactly. This tightens the noose of expectations around David as he gains fewer resources while expectations continually increase. It's unsustainable.
So the Wolf approach. Perform and protect.
Precisely. Wolf CIOs adopt a balanced strategy. They perform and protect. They proactively communicate their accomplishments with strategic clarity, but they also judiciously ask for help for real issues, showing both strength and practicality. And critically, They aggressively protect those hard-earned reputations by figuratively chewing up and scattering the body parts of those who attack them.
Wow, okay, that's vivid.
It is,
Yeah.
but it's not about being loud all the time. It's about making it undeniably clear that IT will not be an easy target for blame or unwarranted criticism.
Can you give an example of that growl?
Yeah, Susan, a retail CIO, she discovered a high-level stakeholder was falsely blaming IT for missed reports, specifically claiming system downtime.
Okay, classic scapegoating.
Totally. Susan didn't just accept it. She went on the offensive, ran her own detailed reports documenting system uptime for the past year, revealing a mere 2 minutes of downtime across all systems.
2 minutes?
Right. She shared this threatening growl of data with the senior executive team, making it crystal clear that IT was not an easy target for scapegoating.
What happened?
Well, it risks making an enemy, sure. But Machiavelli would argue, if they behave that way, they weren't your friend anyway, and a clear defense is necessary. It stopped the finger-pointing, at least from that individual.
That example really shows that reputation management isn't just about being extroverted or constantly roaring, is it?
No, not at all. It's about proactively communicating the desired reputation and defending it, sometimes with a periodic low growl of irrefutable data or precisely targeted action, rather than a constant, overwhelming roar. Total silence about your successes is not an option, but neither is excessive loudness that strains credibility. Find the balance.
Okay, let's talk about control. Machiavelli issued a stark warning, right? That a prince who knows no other control but his own will is like a madman.
Power corrupts.
And this applies directly to business units and their often unfettered IT demands. If left unchecked, it can lead to organizational chaos and crippling inefficiency.
Sean, the new university CIO, mentioned in the book, he quickly discovered a situation of just extreme IT decentralization, underfunding, each department running its own email, servers, bespoke systems. You know the drill.
Oh yeah, been there.
As a lamb, he initially trusted his colleagues' wisdom, asked for extensive input, tried his best to deliver the immense complexity they requested. But with severely limited resources, he soon struggled to keep up.
Couldn't boil the ocean.
Exactly. When he cautiously suggested implementing standards, stakeholders dismissively told him he didn't understand the university way. And he was eventually viewed as the wrong CIO for not catering to their every whim. He learned a harsh lesson. Excessive input or asking permission when not strictly necessary can be a massive power drain, especially if you're not operating in a truly light-side culture.
Charles, from a professional services firm, did something similar, right? Maybe inadvertently gave away power.
Yeah, Charles, he perhaps inadvertently gave away all his power by extensively engaging stakeholders and effectively asking for permission to standardize a deeply decentralized system. Yeah. He believed deeply in democratic fairness.
Noble goal.
Very. But this lengthy process took months, leaving the enterprise overspending and vulnerable to security risks. By engaging stakeholders so extensively and essentially asking their permission for each step, Charles dispersed his power to what the book calls unruly masses, when he actually didn't need to. He could have just done it, perhaps.
And the opposite extreme, Maria, the gaming company CIO.
Maria. She is an example of a lion who became too comfortable with control. She successfully centralized IT after making a powerful, data-driven case to the CEO and chief legal officer about escalating compliance risks. Great start.
Okay.
But over time, she grew arrogant, rarely requested or listened to input from others. When IT experienced even a moderate recoverable failure, she was almost immediately fired.
Wow, just like that.
Just like that.
By utilizing extreme control and dark-side power tactics exclusively, Maria had unfortunately become the mad leader Machiavelli warned about, eliminated decisively when the opportunity presented itself.
Okay, now for the Wolf approach. Russell, the CIO at the decentralized university. This one's interesting.
Yeah, Russell's story is great.
He initially asked the various presidents for explicit permission to standardize infrastructure and email across their departments, and they, predictably, said no.
Standard answer in academia. Often.
So what did he do?
But Russell, he standardized anyway and they didn't notice.
He just did it. Here's the brilliant part. Each time a system needed significant new capability or routine maintenance or an essential upgrade, he quietly, without external consultation, moved it to a standardized system.
Sneaky.
Strategic. This give them what they need even if they don't want it. Tactic was a calculated risk, absolutely, but a remarkably effective one. He usurped power from the masses without their conscious knowledge, seizing control over their initial objection. But he did it in such a controlled, incremental manner that it maximized the benefit while minimizing overt risk.
And the justification.
He was convinced he could far better argue his case after the fact through the undeniable strong results he delivered. And he was absolutely right. It showcases that sometimes strategic omission and demonstrable success after the fact are way more powerful than direct confrontation.
Let's talk money. Money is power, obviously, but it also, maybe paradoxically, makes you a target.
Definitely. Machiavelli warned that money alone doesn't ensure strength. In fact, it can make a prince more vulnerable to plunder external pressures. The book explores how direct control over the budget profoundly impacts a CIO's execution capability and their overall vulnerability.
Seth, the steel manufacturer's CIO, fell into the Lamb's chargeback trap, didn't he?
Yeah, Seth. He implemented this meticulously transparent chargeback system for IT, genuinely believing it would minimize conflict and foster accountability. Seems logical.
Okay.
But when company revenues sank, the business units who were essentially hostages to corporate IT, because they had no choice but to pay and couldn't opt out, they turned hostile. They demanded endless justifications for every single line item, diverting attention and energy away from critical growth initiatives. Seth completely misunderstood the underlying power dynamic. He actually had the power to minimize the justification and refocus the conversation on growth. But his Lamb approach led him to effectively surrender that power instead of increasing it.
It makes you wonder, right? What if your core premise is just wrong from the start?
Exactly. If business units must pay a chargeback and cannot opt out, they aren't customers in the traditional sense. They're, as the book bluntly puts it, hostages.
Right.
Seth actually held the power to minimize endless justification and refocus the narrative squarely on growth. But his lamb-like approach tragically led him to a power drain instead of a strategic increase.
Okay, contrast that with Diana, the Wolf CIO at the old Asian petroleum company.
Diana's story is fascinating. She noticed something truly unique in her environment. As the company's first female executive, the traditionally all-male executive team was, interestingly, reluctant to say no to her outright, at least initially.
Okay, a window of opportunity.
She astutely seized the opportunity, doubling the IT budget and centralizing everything before they had a chance to become comfortable with their presence and start resisting her initiatives.
Wow. Strike while the iron is hot.
Totally. This rock-the-boat tactic is a brilliant example of using discomfort to the CIO's advantage, allowing them to gain significant ground before anyone can truly react or organize opposition. Being different, like Diana's gender in that specific cultural context, can actually make you more powerful if you strategically leverage that initial discomfort.
And then what?
Then she skillfully soothed the group after the advantage was gained, ensuring a long and remarkably successful career. Masterful.
Okay, but even a wolf isn't always the alpha, right? You're not always the most powerful person in the room.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Machiavelli was profoundly pragmatic. Know your opponents intimately, and crucially, know when to accommodate a stronger force to avoid grave, irreversible error.
Yeah.
Sometimes your goal isn't to win that battle outright, but simply to choose between a bad outcome and a worse one.
Like Jack, the Wolf CIO in the South American telecom firm.
Yeah, Jack learned this lesson firsthand. He initially denied his CFO, Ron, an iPad due to stringent security concerns. Seemed reasonable. Ron, in swift retaliation, began withholding invoice approvals for critical IT projects, creating a severe and immediate business issue.
Ouch. CFOs have that power.
They do. Jack, facing a choice between bad and worse options, made a calculated tactical retreat and got Ron the iPad. He survived the immediate battle, even if his position was temporarily weakened, by expertly avoiding a larger, more damaging conflict with his powerful CFO. It was a clear strategic compromise aimed at long-term survival.
And Mike, the European consultancy CIO, he had that tricky situation with the CEO's son-in-law.
Oh yeah, that was sticky. His CEO was blocking a new, superior IT provider because the old provider's owner happened to be the CEO's son-in-law.
Nepotism happens.
Mike, rather than fighting an unwinnable, emotionally charged battle, ingeniously changed his business case to a multi-sourced approach.
Okay, how did that help?
It allowed for a partial win. The old provider retained some business, keeping the CEO happy, while a much larger, more capable vendor was brought in to handle the bulk of the work. It not only pleased the CEO by keeping his family members somewhat involved, but also gave the son-in-law time to find other customers, a masterful blend of empathy and ruthless pragmatism.
Sometimes, though, you just can't win, and you become the sacrificial lamb, like Donna, the manufacturing CIO.
That's right. And that, too, can be a profound act of leadership. Donna simply couldn't prevent the board from making the decision to outsource IT. It was happening.
So what did she do?
Instead of resigning in immediate protest, which many would do,
Yeah, storm out.
she chose to stay. She negotiated fiercely and admirably for favorable terms for her staff, ensuring positions or generous severance packages, and secured advantageous contract terms for the company. Only then did she ultimately resign. It was an extreme path of a sacrificial lamb, undertaken for the greater good. Truly admirable when all other options for direct intervention are exhausted.
Now, here's a genuinely unexpected twist sometimes. In mergers or acquisitions, the less aggressive lamb CIO,
Yeah, the quiet one.
the one who quietly blends in with the herd, or fascinatingly, plays hard to get by genuinely not wanting the demanding new job, sometimes ends up being aggressively pursued and kept by the acquiring CEO.
Really? Why would that happen?
Because dark side cultures, often weary of constant conflict and internal antagonism, can be surprisingly receptive to such perceived selflessness and quiet strength. They see it as a welcome respite from antagonism, a potential step towards a more light-sided future. It can be a huge, almost accidental win for the lamb. Who knew?
Okay, now we're getting into even more ethically complex territory, aren't we? Manipulation. It really challenges our traditional notions of leadership.
It does, and Machiavelli, after being wrongly imprisoned, even tortured, he learned firsthand that assuming others are inherently good or well-intentioned can leave you utterly defenseless in a brutal world.
Yeah, harsh lesson.
So the book asks us to consider, have you ever felt imprisoned by circumstances, misled by a promise, stabbed in the back by a colleague you genuinely thought was a friend?
Oof. Probably most people have at some point.
Right, and that prompts a critical question. If you've experienced those betrayals, you might need to become more manipulative yourself, or at the very least become far more adept at recognizing it when it's aimed at you.
It's like developing an immune system to it.
Exactly. Manipulation, at its core, the book argues, simply means to handle with skill. It's the dark side of influence, yes, but it becomes an appropriate tool when colleagues are deceitful, persistently irrational, or simply more powerful than you are.
And that represents a significant, often uncomfortable mindset shift for many CIOs, doesn't it? Especially those who naturally prefer straightforward, honest, logical approaches.
Totally. And the book provocatively argues that many traditional IT practices, the things we typically view as strengths, like transparency, logic, consistency, can actually make CIOs predictable, and therefore uniquely vulnerable to manipulators.
Ah, so your strengths become weaknesses in this context.
Potentially. Machiavelli advised that honesty is primarily for friends, but when that faith is irrevocably broken, it is foolhardy, even dangerous, to remain stubbornly honest. Treating all colleagues the same way, as if they are all friends, when some are demonstrably enemies. Well, that places the CIO, and by extension, the entire enterprise, at great risk.
So it becomes clearer then. Manipulation is an appropriate, maybe even necessary tactic when colleagues are consistently deceitful.
Right, they've broken trust.
Consistently irrational.
Logic doesn't work on that.
Or simply hold more power than you. Deceitful colleagues have broken trust. Irrational stakeholders are often impervious to data no matter how compelling. And more powerful stakeholders, by definition, require alternative tactics to influence. It's a critical shift in mindset for many CIOs who have historically relied solely on logic and transparency.
Okay, so let's bring back the extreme animal ecosystem for manipulation. The binary animals here are the dove and the snake.
Dove and snake.
Okay. Dove CIOs are value-driven, principled. They inspire followership through their integrity. But they might appear unrealistic or even uncompromising in dark side cultures. They might even be actively avoided by dark side executives who fear their strong sense of fairness.
Interesting. Their goodness becomes a threat.
Kind of. Then you have snake CIOs. They're pragmatic, adaptable, secretive, masters of subterfuge. They excel in dysfunctional organizations, but may appear untrustworthy in light-side cultures. And perhaps unsurprisingly, they're less than ideal mentors due to their complex, often opaque actions.
Hard to learn from someone you can't quite read.
Exactly. So the wolf, always in the center, combines both extremes. Strong underlying values, but adaptable tactics. Using manipulation altruistically for the greater good of the enterprise. That's the ideal.
Okay, now Machiavelli issued a specific warning, didn't he? That executive colleagues, precisely because they have so much to lose, are far more dangerous than subordinates.
Why is that?
They're more farsighted, more astute, always looking out for their own survival, subtly seeking favor from whoever appears to be on the winning side. So how a CIO chooses to deal with a new, influential stakeholder is often a key indicator of their underlying manipulation approach. Are they a dove a snake or a wolf?
Lori, the banking CIO with the dove style, made a critical error, right?
Yeah, Lori's story is painful. She trusted a new CFO's request for a major ERP system, despite her own strong intuition that their existing system was actually quite sufficient.
Went against her gut.
She mistakenly decided to trust him over her own seasoned judgment, expecting him to stand up for her with other stakeholders. Classic Dove move, assuming goodwill.
And
When project costs inevitably soared and timelines frustratingly slipped, the CFO, without hesitation, skewered her to the board, irrevocably damaging her reputation and career. Her inherent trust tragically left her completely defenseless.
ouch. Okay, contrast that with Paul, the pension fund CIO.
Paul, upon receiving a new president's specific and seemingly urgent software request, he didn't just blindly proceed.
No. What did he do?
Instead, he thoroughly researched the new president online, diligently uncovering mixed reviews, a concerning track record of frequent job changes, dubious circumstances surrounding his past departures.
Did his homework.
Right.
Like a snake.
Exactly.
Huh.
Paul decided to proceed with extreme caution, artfully stalling the request, gathering more information directly rather than making a quick judgment or blindly extending trust. He skillfully used his analytical prowess to uncover a potential hidden agenda before committing resources.
What's genuinely interesting here, the book points out, is how often a hidden agenda isn't actually hidden at all. You just have to ask.
Really? Just ask.
Yeah. CIOs sometimes fail to ask direct, respectful, but probing questions about a colleague's true motivations, either assuming they should volunteer the information or mistakenly believing that asking is impolite.
But being polite can get you killed, politically speaking.
Right. Respectfully questioning can often reveal trustworthiness or, crucially, confirm suspicions. It gives the CIO invaluable information to avoid being manipulated or maybe to better manipulate the situation for the enterprise's true benefit.
Okay, so what about the Wolf approach here? Stephen, the biotech CIO.
Stephen developed what the book brilliantly calls pragmatic optimism.
Pragmatic optimism, I like that.
He engages with genuine enthusiasm for new ideas from entrepreneurial stakeholders, seems very dove-like on the surface, but he continuously and quite subtly tests their commitment with small, easy-to-clear hurdles.
Like what?
Like requiring proposal forms or asking for a small investment of their time for a meeting, all without revealing his underlying strategy. If they consistently clear these hurdles, then they are likely truly worthy of trust because their follow-through confirms their sincerity.
So it's hope for the best, but meticulously plan for the worst. Wolf-like.
Exactly. Okay, next manipulation tactic. Information as a weapon. Machiavelli famously declared, before all else, be armed.
Information is ammunition.
Information is undeniably a powerful weapon, but it can also be turned devastatingly against you if not handled with extreme care and strategic foresight.
Richard, the insurance CIO with that dove-like tendency towards over-transparency. He found himself constantly under attack, right?
Yeah.
Colleagues relentlessly questioning IT's cost, perceived value.
Yeah, familiar story.
His response: share more and more meticulously detailed information, believing that complete transparency would somehow solve the problem, appease the critics.
But
This loading the gun, as the book describes it, actually invited micromanagement and endless criticism. It showed a distinct lack of confidence and paradoxically made him more vulnerable rather than less.
so transparency backfired. What about the snake approach, Emily, the financial services CIO?
Emily faced executives who were relentless micromanagers, continually requesting enormous amounts of data. She adopted a classic snake strategy. She shared massive piles of data.
Flooded them.
Exactly. Intentionally burying the truly key information where they were least likely to find it. She was technically transparent, adhering to the letter of the request, but she effectively avoided being micromanaged on what truly mattered for her projects and her team, hid in plain sight.
That's clever, but is there a risk there?
Oh, definitely. But it highlights a critical point. Sharing too much data often conveys a lack of confidence and, ironically, a lack of credibility. The book highlights a crucial distinction. True trust means they stop asking for data.
Okay. Less is more once trust is built.
Precisely. CIOs should share enough data to gain initial trust, but no more, and then actually strive to share less. Oversharing can be a self-inflicted wound, making the CIO appear less certain and more defensive to their CEO.
So the Wolf CIO, Nick, the retail CIO, what did he do?
Nick became incredibly judicious in his approach. When asked for a status update, he now asks precise, clarifying questions about what information is genuinely useful and how it will specifically be used.
Turning the question back on them.
Yeah. And he shrewdly noticed that his colleagues' own business cases were often superficial, lacking depth. He realized that his own excessive information made him look less certain and confident in comparison, so now he practices equivalent sharing, matching the level of information he receives from others, keeping it balanced.
Okay, let's talk about urgency. They need it now. They needed it yesterday.
Size. The battle cry of the modern workplace.
Urgent requests are a powerful tool of emotional blackmail in many organizations, aren't they? And CIOs often find themselves caught in this reactive loop, constantly putting out fires instead of strategically building.
Samuel, the defense agency's CIO, mentioned. He found himself in an environment where literally every request was branded urgent.
Everything's a crisis.
Right. In such emotionally charged settings where issues are often framed as life or death, objective decision-making is completely blocked, and manipulation becomes rife. Colleagues subtly imply that not cooperating immediately will endanger lives, whether they fully believe it or not. Effectively blackmailing IT Samuel, a dove operating among accidental snakes, found himself in a perpetual state of reacting to emergencies, constant firefighting.
And this is where it gets, well, truly unsettling. The book suggests that many CIOs secretly enjoy the adrenaline rush of urgent requests.
Really? Enjoy it.
Yeah, inadvertently becoming complicit in their own blackmail. Like firefighters who, in extreme cases, might set fires just to be heroes. They seek the addiction of saving the day, and in doing so, they inadvertently feed the very cycle of urgency they lament, often avoiding the necessary strategic planning that could prevent these crises in the first place.
That rush is addictive, isn't it? Leading CIOs to willingly engage in the emotional blackmail, and the cycle is often brutally broken by betrayal. The ally who initially demands urgency then conveniently shifts blame or simply disappears once the project is done, leaving the CIO feeling used, undervalued. It's a clear signal the CIO was likely being manipulated from the very beginning.
Okay, so how does a Wolf CIO break this debilitating cycle?
They meticulously document and track urgent requests to identify patterns, and then crucially, they learn to vary their approach. It's not always yes.
Examples?
One CIO, for example, required manager signatures for all urgent requests. A simple bureaucratic step, but it effectively deterred most with minimal fuss. Other wolves insist on clear answers to objective questions like, why is this urgent now? Or how much revenue do we lose if we wait a week? Or who is measurably harmed if we don't act immediately?
Pushing back with logic.
Exactly. But this requires wolf-like strength and resolve not to back down in the face of that emotional pressure.
Lauren, the private equity CIO, had that great story with the CRM demand.
Oh yeah, Lauren. Faced a CEO demanding a CRM system implemented in just 3 months, citing that a competitor had achieved it in 6. Pure pressure.
So what did she do? Act like a snake.
She did. She masterfully exposed the competitor's incredibly high cost, a whopping $18 million. Then, with a straight face, offered to do it for double, given the accelerated timeline.
Laughs called his bluff?
Completely. The CEO immediately dropped the request. Then, in a truly brilliant, almost dove-like follow-up move, she found him a less expensive, genuinely innovative investment he could proudly show off to the board.
Gave him what he really wanted.
Exactly. Competitive advantage and something impressive to boast about. Not the specific system. She understood the underlying need, not just the stated demand.
That example raises a really important question for you, the listener, to consider. What am I lying to myself about right now, and how might I be an unwitting part of this very cycle?
Self-reflection is key.
The book suggests that often the hardest lies to discern are precisely those we tell ourselves. Sometimes with good intentions, sometimes simply out of ingrained habit.
Okay, let's talk reciprocity. A true partnership, at its core, is fundamentally reciprocal, isn't it?
Has to be. Give and take.
When IT consistently acts as an order taker, constantly giving while others are perpetually taking, it severely damages IT status. It reinforces a lower perceived power level. If you don't clearly demonstrate that you value your own time and resources, why should anyone else?
Gavin, the hospital CIO, exemplified the dove status drain, right?
Yeah, Gavin. He compensated for deeply disengaged stakeholders by assigning stronger IT teams to their projects. Effectively taking on the sponsors' roles, doing their work for them, seemed helpful. But it inadvertently yet powerfully taught his colleagues a damaging lesson. The less I do, the more IT does. And, implicitly, my time is more valuable than theirs. It significantly lowered IT status, damaged genuine partnerships, and crucially penalized good, engaged partners while enabling the bad ones.
Okay, what about Megan, the pharma CIO? She went full snake, didn't she?
Megan did. She found herself consistently facing demanding yet deeply disengaged sponsors. So she adopted a bold negative reinforcement strategy, a truly sharp snake tactic.
What did she do?
She deliberately assigned her weakest, least skilled project team to these consistently poor sponsors.
Wow. Sabotage, almost.
Calculated risk. And when the sponsor inevitably complained, and they always did, about the struggling team, Megan feigned total innocence. Well, they're new. Everyone has to start somewhere. Surely you wouldn't ask for special treatment, would you?
Chuckles. That takes nerve.
It does. It was a high-risk behavior, undoubtedly short-term damaging to the specific project. But it powerfully taught the dark side players a clear lesson. If you don't engage, you get the minimum. It taught them to behave better long-term, sending an undeniable message about the value of IT's time and resources.
Okay, maybe a less extreme Wolf approach. Raja, the telecom CIO.
Raja adopted a more measured yet equally powerful Wolf approach. He meticulously estimates the time and materials required not just from IT, but crucially, from sponsors for every single project, just like he would for an external consultant.
Holding them accountable.
Yes. He sets clear milestones, and most importantly, stops the project entirely if sponsors fall significantly behind on their commitments.
Really? Pulls the plug.
As Raja plainly explains, if they disappear, it's like saying it's not important to them. Why should my team spend valuable time on it?
Makes perfect sense when you put it that way.
It does. And this strategy creates immense clarity and, more importantly, demands reciprocity. Often, just one visible project pause or cancellation can serve as a powerful signal to the entire enterprise that the CIO is absolutely serious about sponsor engagement, fundamentally changing behavior across the organization for the long run.
Okay, let's talk about combining these things. Power and manipulation. The book says they're effective separately, but exponentially more so when strategically combined.
Absolutely. This isn't about brute force. It's about being incredibly strategic and surgically precise.
Precision strikes, not area bombardments.
Exactly that phrase. Manipulation effectively serves as the targeting system, right? Allowing a smaller amount of power to achieve maximum effect with minimal collateral damage. The book uses the compelling example of a blanket no working from home policy, that's an area bombardment, demoralizes staff, versus disciplining individual abusers, that's a precision strike. Bombardments demoralize and damage trust, while precision strikes are surgical, focused, and ultimately more effective.
And Wolf CIOs use this powerful blend to prevent small, localized problems from escalating into total warfare across the organization.
Right. They leverage manipulation techniques with a carefully measured dose of power before a larger part of the enterprise is affected. Nip it in the bud.
How does that work with, say, a difficult team?
To stop a passively aggressive project team from escalating into a mass revolt, a Wolf CIO like William in food services will fire into the middle of the herd.
Fire into the middle? What does that mean?
He identified an okay performer who was well-liked by the team, not the worst, not the best, but liked. Then he publicly reprimanded and removed him from the project.
Why the middle?
Because that act, precisely targeted, deeply shook the entire team. It made them realize none were safe and powerfully compelled them to move forward. If he had targeted the weakest link, the rest would have felt secure and likely continued their passive resistance. Targeting the middle sends a stronger message.
Okay, another example. Roger, the semiconductor CIO and the security breach.
Roger's story is brilliant. He discovered the source of a security breach was a senior executive using his company laptop for, let's just say, inappropriate websites.
Oh boy.
Roger confronted the executive, explaining he had to report the breach source. But, crucially, he omitted the details of the inappropriate behavior in his report.
Protected him while doing his duty.
Exactly. The executive, immensely grateful to avoid being fired and publicly humiliated, became Roger's steadfast friend and future ally. It was a powerful precision strike that minimized damage and maximized an unlikely alliance.
That allowed Roger to expertly avoid potential retaliation from the CEO, who might have felt pressured to fire someone he personally liked, and secured an improved rather than adversarial relationship with the executive. Minimized collateral damage, turned an adversary into an ally. That strategic omission was a precisely targeted manipulation.
Perfect example.
Okay, one more on precision versus bombardment. Budget cuts. Say you're asked to cut 20%. What does a lamb do?
A lamb CIO would likely cut every single project equally by 20%, thereby making all colleagues equally dislike them, spreading resentment broadly across the board. Seems fair, but it's ineffective.
And the wolf?
A wolf CIO, by contrast, would precisely focus the entire project budget remaining on the colleagues he most needs to win over, or who are the most critical to the enterprise's strategic success.
My favorites.
Strategic allocation. This focused approach strategically creates friends and clearly identifies enemies. It focuses collateral damage rather than generalizing it, powerfully protecting the CIO's reputation and strategic position while maximizing the impact of the remaining funds.
That all raises a pretty important question, though, doesn't it? What truly happens when you get caught manipulating? Because you might.
Yeah, it's a risk. And the book acknowledges, with striking honesty, your paws will never be entirely clean.
So what are your options?
You face a critical choice. You can tell the truth, which effectively confirms you're a manipulator and likely loses significant trust. Or you can stick with the lie, which pulls you deeper into snake territory, making others watch you with extreme care. Or perhaps, strangely, admire your cunning. It's a high-stakes choice with lasting consequences. No easy answer.
Okay, Section 3. Warfare. In this Machiavellian context, warfare is fundamentally about scale, right?
Exactly. Exponentially scaling your power and manipulation and managing multiple levels of conflict simultaneously. It's the big leagues.
And Machiavelli put it so aptly. No one should ever submit to an evil for the sake of avoiding a war. For a war is never avoided, but is only deferred to one's own disadvantage. You can't just hope conflict goes away.
No, you have to be prepared. And warfare, it's vital to understand, is fundamentally a team sport. CIOs cannot wage war alone. Success depends utterly on a strong, cohesive IT leadership team, loyal troops on the ground, and powerful, reliable allies across the organization.
So those unilateral methods, like Chris firing Tim earlier.
Expedient in the short term, yes, but inherently unstable. Others quickly learn from such tactics and eventually turn them against the new overlords. A truly good peace, one that is sustainable and beneficial, comes from many being genuinely invested in the outcome and, crucially, in your success. You need buy-in.
All right, let's bring in the warfare animals from the ecosystem. The dolphin and the shark.
Dolphin and shark, the light and dark of warfare. Dolphin CIOs are highly social. They prefer peace, strive to make work enjoyable, consume vast amounts of information, think collaboration, consensus.
Sounds nice. The downside.
They might not be taken seriously by aggressive competitors or stakeholders. They could be seen as soft targets.
Okay. And the shark.
Shark CIOs are overtly aggressive. They kill with extreme prejudice, amass overwhelming firepower, attract followers through winning or sheer fear.
Sounds effective, but
they risk terrorizing their own team. And their alliances are often only with other sharks, dissolving at the first sign of weakness. It's a brutal, unstable world.
So the wolf, again, blends them.
Combines both, inspiring fierce loyalty and disciplined action, making followers brave enough to venture into the unknown, but also feared by those who dare to cross them. It's that balanced strength needed for large-scale campaigns.
And a leader is ultimately judged by their team, right? Your IT leadership team can either exponentially scale up your efforts and influence, or they can inadvertently undermine you, especially in warfare, where coordinated execution at scale is everything.
Kevin, the manufacturing CIO with those distinct Dawson-like tendencies, he unfortunately committed the error of having far too many direct reports. Over 10.
Wow, span of control issue.
Big time. His open-door policy, extensive skip-level meetings, all intended to foster transparency, paradoxically led to a gossipy, cliquish, and deeply disengaged team. Very little meaningful work got accomplished. His desire to positively motivate without setting firm boundaries and expectations for performance and accountability simply failed to work with his now dark side team, and colleagues increasingly turned to outside, often more expensive providers. His light side approach backfired at scale.
And the opposite problem, Simon, the shark CIO in shipping.
Simon faced the opposite, yet equally detrimental, problem. He successfully crafted a compelling digital strategy, gained significant budget and credibility. Great start. But his aggressive tactics, angry emails, overt threats, relentless insistence on accountability and trying to accelerate his team.
What happened?
Tragically, it led to paralysis. The team froze. They avoided engagement. The strategy ultimately stalled. He had scales up fear to an unacceptable and counterproductive level, causing avoidance rather than the urgent action he desperately sought. Terror doesn't scale well.
Okay, so how does a wolf scale leadership? Bruce, the restaurant chain CIO.
Bruce brilliantly created a strong, cohesive wolf pack within his IT leadership team. He designed metrics that explicitly rewarded both individual and team success, making genuine collaboration a non-negotiable requirement for his IT managers.
Collaboration required, not just encouraged.
Exactly. He pointedly notes, if the business partner is genuinely trying to collaborate, and my direct report is not, No matter how well he performs technically, I will either fire him or demote him to a more tactical role.
Tough, but clear.
This collaborator-else tactic masterfully combines dolphin-like teamwork and positive reinforcement with shark-like consequences for non-compliance. It powerfully enforces pack behavior and collective responsibility. That scales.
And Ralph, the military organization's CIO, how did he scale power?
Ralph scaled power through unwavering clarity and disciplined execution. He made the overall strategy crystal clear, yes, but he also, crucially, taught his team to think. By consistently asking simple, yet profound questions like, is this consistent with our overarching strategy? What are the inherent risks here? Who is affected, and how? He firmly stood by decisions made using this rigorously applied method, but he severely penalized bad decisions that were made badly without following the established strategic framework. This robust delegation framework exponentially scaled his power by ensuring consistent, strategic, and rapid execution across his organization. Empowered thinking within clear boundaries.
And scaling manipulation. Sylvia, the logistics CIO.
Sylvia scaled manipulation through a highly coordinated strategy of assignation. High risk, but often remarkably effective.
Assignation? What's that?
She assembled her team to create a meticulously detailed power map of key stakeholders outlining their priorities, existing relationships, personal hobbies, preferred communication styles. Everything.
Wow, deep intel.
Then, they coordinated precisely who would use what channel and what specific information to sway each individual stakeholder, even using casual golf analogies during a round or taking them to their favorite oyster bar. This mass assignation leveraged the team's collective influence for successful, large-scale change. It's coordinated, targeted manipulation at scale.
Okay, let's talk alliances. Partnership with the business is the ultimate goal, right? But how you form these alliances is absolutely critical. Machiavelli identified 3 distinct methods for scaling influence.
Yes, each with an inverse relationship between the effort required and the ultimate durability of the alliance.
Serena, the state CIO, exemplified the Dolphins' fragile alliances, didn't she?
Yeah, Serena, she created a governance group for county CIOs, meticulously treating them as equals, attempting to negotiate every single detail to consensus. It seemed collaborative, but this led to endless consensus and frustrating stalling tactics. Her colleagues skillfully used the forum as a manipulation tactic against her, making her a target rather than the leader of a cohesive alliance. Her light-side intentions unwittingly created a perfect forum for dark-side warfare. She lost control.
And Howard, the university CIO, the Sharks' all-or-nothing power play.
Howard's a cautionary tale. He aggressively sought a mandate from the president to immediately centralize the entire IT budget all at once.
Go big or go home.
Right. But when the president, facing strong resistance from department deans, reneged on the agreement, Howard, having put all his eggs in one basket, lost the war in a single devastating exchange.
Ouch. Total failure.
This neutralization strategy left him appearing weak and vulnerable, resulting in a total power and status drain. And he was, predictably soon, neutralized right out of his role. This tactic, taking states by force, often works best only in extremely aggressive, shark-filled cultures. It's rarely sustainable elsewhere.
So the Wolf approach to alliances. Lauren, the semiconductor CIO again, the mathematical steamroller.
Lauren's strategy for her complex ERP initiative was brilliant. She employed a mathematical steamroller.
Meaning?
She began by systematically convincing minor players first, then methodically moved to the welterweights, and then the heavyweights in a specific calculated order, skillfully creating critical mass for the alliance before confronting the most powerful opponents.
Building momentum step by step.
Exactly. Getting the math right, meaning intimately understanding the specific order and influence of each stakeholder, was absolutely crucial to building a strong, engaged, and most importantly, durable coalition for the long-term project.
And once alliances are formed, wolves don't just dictate.
No. Wolf CIOs deliberately avoid extreme all-or-nothing approaches. Instead, they adapt solutions to maximize the minority's needs, often making strategic financial adjustments for smaller players, or even, in some cases, having 2 distinct ERP versions if a single one is truly untenable for a key group. This flexibility ensures durable alliances in federated environments, rather than poisoning the partnership by forcing a rigid one-size-fits-all approach that alienates crucial partners. pragmatism wins.
Wolves are also opportunistic, right? Making the most of crises.
Incredibly opportunistic. They masterfully make the most of every crisis. The optimization strategy turns dark days like a natural disaster or the emergence of a new aggressive competitor disrupting the market into collaborative opportunities.
Example.
A savvy CIO skillfully used the devastating impact of a hurricane to centralize IT in a previously decentralized enterprise, brilliantly turning a crisis into a durable, high-value, and deeply collaborative outcome for the entire organization. Never let a good crisis go to waste, as they say.
This all brings up a fascinating but crucial takeaway about vendor relationships, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, the partner word.
Be extremely careful with the word partner. If a vendor has exponentially more revenue than you do and operates clearly on the dark side, you are simply not partners.
No matter what the contract says.
Right. In that dynamic, you might be a customer, sure, or a hostage, or even, alarmingly, a cult member. Always, always examine the mathematical reality of the underlying power dynamics before you assign that label. It matters.
Okay, fighting on multiple fronts.
Yeah.
A general with only one battle line, as military history teaches us, will inevitably collapse.
Makes sense. You get outflanked.
Similarly, CIOs must strategically fight on at least 3 distinct fronts: top-line growth, bottom-line savings, and critical risk mitigation. Fighting on only one front, even if you are incredibly successful, leaves you dangerously vulnerable. Your victory is too narrow to be truly impactful or sustainable.
Ari, the Dolphin CIO in government, learned this the hard way.
Yeah, Ari focused exclusively on consolidation and cost savings, precisely as requested by his department head. Delivered successfully for 2 years.
So what was the problem?
He was abruptly let go because the next phase of the organization's strategy desperately needed transformation and innovation. And he had been, perhaps unfairly, branded solely as the cost-saving CIO. His singular focus, though successful in its own right, severely limited his opportunities for growth and ultimately cost him his job. He got boxed in.
Natalie, the global CIO with shark tendencies, avoided getting boxed in, right?
Natalie did. She was advised by various business unit presidents to focus primarily on commodity applications. But she suspected they were subtly trying to distract her from more strategic IT initiatives, a manipulation tactic.
So what did she do?
She leveraged the CFO to review and sign off on all IT purchases across all regions, thereby gaining significant influence over every IT front. When the business units, believing they could bypass her, submitted all their IT requests just a week before the budget deadline.
Trying to sneak them through.
The CFO, now empowered by Natalie, rejected them all. Setting aside funds for Natalie to strategically allocate later, she had successfully fended off mass manipulation and gained influence across every critical IT front. Didn't let them define her battlefield.
And Wolf CIOs. They fight unimagined wars, like Penny, the property management CIO.
Penny's story is great. She was explicitly told to focus solely on cost savings. Classic IT box. But her wolf side led her to take her IT leadership team to work events directly with customers.
Get it out of the office.
Way out, where they uncovered innovative opportunities for growth and tangible improvements in customer experience. They powerfully broke the mold by fighting at the front office, securing IT's indispensable role not just in cost reduction, but in crucial revenue growth and elevating the customer experience, redefined IT's role.
And this leads to the idea of taking over gray spaces, like Leonard, the professional services CIO.
Ah, Leonard. This is truly ingenious. He noticed there was simply no one effectively in charge of business process improvement, a critical gray space within the organization.
Yeah.
Lots of talk, no owner. So he made a bold move. He didn't ask permission, didn't tell anyone, I just did it.
Labs.
Just took it.
He proactively assigned IT team members to meticulously map processes and set clear improvement targets. Eventually, and quite naturally, IT owned the entire space. He even incorporated it directly into IT's job descriptions.
Wow. Land grab.
That's a perfect illustration of a core principle.
Yeah.
The easiest hill to take is almost always the one not yet occupied by the enemy. Wolves strategically expand their battlefronts and territorial influence into ignored gray spaces, taking decisive advantage of emerging specialty areas or leadership vacuums to secure more value for the enterprise without direct, overt confrontation. Find the undefended territory.
Okay, final tactic in warfare. Weapons of mass destruction, WMDs. Sounds dramatic.
It is. Sometimes in the most extreme scenarios, there is simply no conventional alternative. CIOs must combine massive manipulation with massive power to create these WMDs, using immensely dark tactics to, paradoxically, shine some light and achieve a force multiplier effect that fundamentally shifts the playing field. Last resort stuff.
like using the auditor as a WMD. Daniel, the International Grocery CIO.
Yeah, Daniel. He inherited an IT department that was neither cost-effective nor compliant. A real mess. When rigorously questioned by auditors, he told the unvarnished truth, albeit with exceptionally careful phrasing.
Okay, risky.
The auditor's subsequent damning report to the board resulted in Daniel gaining complete control over the entire IT budget and staff. A veritable bloodless coup achieved via a spreadsheet WMD. He inadvertently deployed a powerful WMD and successfully expanded his power while ensuring long overdue compliance. The audit became his weapon.
And using the press or public scrutiny, Michaela, the government CIO.
Michaela found herself in a perilous position.
Yeah.
A politician publicly announced a massive, completely unfunded IT project, putting her squarely on the spot.
Setting her up to fail.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
She cleverly tightened the noose by repeatedly and publicly stating that the project simply wouldn't hit its targets without adequate resources. Then, crucially, she just hinted, that she'd be compelled to tell the press the unvarnished truth about the project's feasibility if things didn't change.
The threat of bad press.
Exactly. The implied threat of public scrutiny and political embarrassment led directly to substantial funding for the project.
Yeah.
She recognized the WMD the politician had inadvertently handed her and skillfully used it against him, rather than letting the target be placed on her.
And the most difficult WMD, patience. Letting foes self-destruct.
That's the hardest. Sending your troops back to barracks and simply letting the enemy self-destruct when the environment is genuinely toxic and beyond redemption. The book recounts a powerful example of a CIO at a deeply dysfunctional not-for-profit. After exhausting all other options, he stopped actively protecting his team from the political fallout, allowed critical failures to fully come to light, failures caused by others, and then orchestrated the outsourcing of the entire department. He stepped aside and let the chaos consume itself.
Wow. That's cold, almost.
In such extreme cases, allowing the enemy to lose the war on their own terms is often the best way to ultimately win it. Minimizing casualties in a drawn-out, unwinnable conflict. Sometimes withdrawal is the strongest move. #tag outro.
Wow. Okay. This has been a challenging, but I think incredibly insightful journey, hasn't it?
Definitely. A lot to chew on.
We've taken a really deep dive through the Machiavellian disciplines of power, manipulation, and warfare, explored that nuanced extreme animal ecosystem. It's clear that leadership is rarely polite. And sometimes to achieve positive outcomes for the many, it requires navigating some pretty ugly territory.
That's a crucial observation. And the consistent message that emerges is this. The gray wolf isn't about choosing one extreme or the other. It's about mastering both.
Both hand again.
It's about profound adaptability. Understanding precisely when light side tactics will be effective and when dark side tactics are absolutely necessary to ensure a truly light side outcome for the enterprise. You have to be willing to go to those extremes, experience them, to strengthen that middle ground of your leadership.
And the book urges you, the listener, to ask a really probing question. If you're in a hostile situation today, it may be your fault. So what?
Yeah. Take responsibility.
The good news is you always have control over your own actions. You can actively course correct. Recognizing your own contribution to a problem, even if it's just inaction, is often the first, most powerful step towards changing it.
It makes you wonder, do you instinctively embrace conflict or shy away from it? Interestingly, the book suggests conflict is often a sign of success.
That's it.
It means you have something valuable that others want: budget, influence, control, which unfortunately makes you a target. Staying calm when others deliberately try to create chaos is paramount because, as Machiavelli reminds us, he who loses control of himself loses the battle.
So engage strategically.
Exactly. Practice truly does make perfect. Don't avoid it. Learn to navigate it.
And as you try these new techniques, maybe stepping outside your comfort zone, don't aim for immediate perfection.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
If you're not making any mistakes, chances are you might not be taking enough calculated risks. Most mistakes are recoverable. And crucially, they help you gather invaluable information and expand your own tolerance for risk, significantly deepening your leadership toolkit. Learn from the stumbles.
It's also important to remember the book says that the Wolf CIO is not always destined to win every single battle.
No, sometimes you have to know when to fold them.
Right. If you find yourself continuously applying extreme techniques just to survive day to day, it might be a clear signal that the environment itself is toxic, maybe beyond redemption.
Time to reassess.
In such situations, pragmatism dictates focusing on defensive tactics or, if possible, strategically getting out. Not every battle can be won, and sometimes the best choice is to minimize casualties and preserve your own long-term effectiveness for a better fight later.
Now here's where it gets truly relatable, maybe even a bit funny.
Okay.
Think about how you might instinctively act as a wolf in your personal life, perhaps with your children. Setting firm boundaries, inspiring a necessary dose of fear when they're in genuine danger. Don't touch that light socket.
Chuckles, yeah, I know that tone.
Many CIOs find it surprisingly easy to, shall we say, skillfully manipulate their children for their own good. The book suggests applying that same thoughtfulness, that same strategic skill, to your professional role. As it wisely states, most children never grow up, they just get taller. The same dynamics often apply.
That's a scary thought, but probably true. And we all carry these self-imposed rules with us, don't we? Always be transparent, never use power directly.
Our internal programming.
The book provocatively challenges you to question these ingrained rules. Ask yourself if they might inadvertently limit your options for success in genuinely difficult situations. Recognize when these rules become outdated or simply don't apply to your current dark side environment, and be willing to adapt. Challenge your own assumptions.
And maybe the most empowering point, you don't need formal permission to start becoming a Wolf CIO.
No certificate needed.
Nope. Just start putting one paw in front of the other. Experiment thoughtfully. Success can be measured in tangible ways. How colleagues genuinely treat you, increased business results from your initiatives, and perhaps most importantly, your own growing feeling of control and your ability to find strategic options in even the most challenging situations. You'll feel the shift.
Ultimately, this all circles back to Machiavelli's profound concept of virtue, doesn't it?
Yes, virtue, which means, at its core, worthy of being followed. Leadership is a profound privilege and an immense burden, not an inherent right. It's about being willing to fight fiercely for something of true worth, to protect what you've meticulously created, and to consistently do what is genuinely best for your people and the enterprise, even if, and maybe especially if, it comes at significant personal risk.
So we'll leave you with this powerful question for yourself today, and maybe every single day forward. Am I worthy of being followed today?
Daily check-in.
The aspiring Wolf CIO, the book suggests, will always possess enough healthy doubt to ask it again tomorrow.